Let's talk about the Brownies here for a second. Maybe we can just dive into like some of their fantasy assets, and if you don't mind, maybe we'll come out of the break and we'll take a look at their schedule. We can rapid fire through, see if we can how many wins we can give them. Jon, Deshaun Watson here as quarterback 9. These are underdog fantasy ADPs here. Free tool over at FTM Fantasy. Nick Chubb is RB4. He's kind of creep up a little bit. Jerome Ford there as RB50. You took Amari Cooper on your squad. He's currently going as wide receiver 18 on average, pick 34.3. I thought the Browns bought low. We're always talking about buying low in Dynasty. I thought that's exactly what Cleveland did with Elijah Moore in the offseason as wide receiver 44. Donovan Peoples-Jones, who I really do like as a flyer, especially in best ball leagues, is wide receiver 71 here. And then David Njoku is tight end 9. What do you make of this offense? How do you think it's going to look? And really, what was kind of a bit of a disaster for Deshaun, right? Like Deshaun Watson just kind of in with the team, not a lot of reps with the squad towards the end of the season. Is this going to be a little bit more of a pass-happy offense? And do you think Deshaun Watson is going to be a top 10 quarterback in fantasy this year?
Listen, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. You know, a lot of people like to pick very specific sample sizes when they make their cases for why people are you're in or out on certain players here. The last time we saw Deshaun Watson play a full season with like a full training camp and everything behind him, he was like QB5 overall in fantasy back when he was with Houston, probably 3 or 4 years ago now at this point. If he is back on sort of his pace, his schedule, he's familiar with the offense, he's getting an understanding, back with the pace and flow of an NFL game here, I think the talent is still there for him to be a successful player. He's not very old. He hasn't taken a lot of damage. He's not coming off of an injury. He's coming off of a suspension. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, especially where he's going in drafts. I do think that there's that potential that he has a bounce back season. And you're looking at a quarterback in that range that could break through and be a top 5 guy. He has at least a pedigree of a season like that under his belt. So willing to take some chances there.
And for Amari Cooper, only a couple games with him, right? And last year, a top 10 wideout in fantasy, his 6th 1,000-yard season, 1.65 yards per route run to 2.06 in his first year with the Browns. He was targeted more down the field, higher ADOT. He was 3rd in end zone targets. A career high 9 touchdowns on a $132 in terms of targets. Is there more room for him to grow? Like with Watson, you feel like much better quarterback play with him to start the season. We have him ranked as wide receiver 16. Do you feel like he could be a rock solid, maybe high end wide receiver 2 here?
I mean, I think it's possible because if you look at sort of his numbers he had with Brissett as quarterback, again, a guy that had the offseason, had the ability to get ready and go for the year. He was actually on pace for a bigger year. It's when they made the flip over to Watson. We saw Watson struggles at a lot of the end of season stats for some of these wide receivers didn't really look as great. But if you look at the handful of games he had with Brissett, he was pacing out for almost 90 catches and 1,200 yards, right? He fell short of that because Watson struggled. But the talent is certainly there to be the top target in that offense. So, yeah, listen, I took him as my wide receiver 1 in this league. Again, 14 teams waited to take a wide receiver, so it was more okay with him there. But I do think that potential is there. He is one of the more highly targeted wide receivers in the red zone. He had like a 25 or 26% target share in this offense. So I am a big fan of Amari Cooper, who was also on my roster last year that won this league. So that worked.
and last year he was going like wide receiver 40. Like nobody wanted a piece of this guy. He was one of the biggest steals in drafts. Do you have a preference between Moore or Donovan Peoples-Jones?
I dig Moore. I think just for the pedigree here. Again, they traded for him. He's a faster wide receiver. I think there's definitely a better skill set. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I'm a little worried on. He's in the final year of a deal. I know he's coming off of a breakout season, but again, another guy that you look at the numbers for him with Deshaun at quarterback. He had one good game against Cincinnati and then really wasn't looked at all that much. Now, he was on the field a lot, but then the team went and drafted Cedric Tillman, another big kind of outside wide receiver. They bring in Moore, who I think will play in the slot, where you saw Peoples-Jones play a lot of last year. It was over 20% of his snaps were in the slot. So, you draft a guy in the 3rd round. You have a guy that's kind of a hangover from an old regime that is on the final year of his deal. Maybe there's an overlap where Tillman passes him there. Plus, I think Njoku actually had pretty good, a decent rapport with Watson there. So there's a chance now, if that happens, that maybe Njoku takes on a bigger part of this offense as well. So I don't mind darts on Peoples-Jones if he's late enough, but I'm looking more at Moore and Njoku here and Tillman as like a late last pick dart throw.
Yeah, you got to feel like Donovan Peoples-Jones is like best case scenario, the third, maybe even the fourth option, right? In
Mhm.
this passing game. And then you have Nick Chubb, who's had, 5 1,000-yard seasons. This would be year number 6. Actually, he's had 4. He was like the rookie campaign that he had. He was just under 1K. But, speaking of rookie season, his last final 7 games as a rookie, he averaged just over 2 catches per game. And then in his sophomore season, he was on pace for 50 grabs at around the halfway point when the team brought in Kareem Hunt. And then all the usage out of the backfield in terms of third down rolls and catching was just
Mhm.
gone. Now Hunt is gone from the team. That's roughly 120 carries from last year, 25 in the red zone, 40 some odd targets. Do those targets now go to Chubb? Or do you feel like Jerome Ford, who's really starting to pick up steam, he's rising up draft boards a little bit as like people's favorite late round running back to
Yeah.
target in best ball formats, doesn't really have any work really on the NFL resume. Do you feel like he's just going to step in and get a majority of Kareem Hunt's work, or is this going to
No.
be a bell cow? I'm
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah. No.
I think Chubb could flirt with 2K, man.
Listen,
I don't even think that's a hot take.
it's not a problem within the fantasy analyst industry, but they all sort of like to get some hot takes out there. And one guy said one thing about Jerome Ford now, and everybody's like, oh, here we go. Jerome Ford's going to come in and be the next Kareem Hunt. Like, based off what? He has no NFL workload. Sure, he had a great year in Cincinnati, his final year in college, but he got, he didn't play it all. He was a 5th-round pick in the NFL. You're expecting him to just be the next Kareem Hunt when Nick Chubb is there? Like, there's not going to be a scenario where, in my opinion, Ford is going to be on the field for the same amount of snap share that Kareem Hunt is. And if that's the case, then we need to talk about what's going on in Cleveland, because Nick Chubb is an elite running back in all formats. He's an elite red zone guy. There were times last year where Hunt would be in the field in the red zone, and I'd be screaming why Nick Chubb's not on the field right now. That should not happen. Jerome Ford should not be playing over Nick Chubb unless he needs a spell, or they have a certain different like throw down play for him specifically. But this should be a Nick Chubb season. Nick Chubb workload. I was hammering him early on in Underdog when he was going like ADP 20, 22.
Oh, yeah.
And now obviously he's moving his way up because people I think are starting to realize like, all right, what's Jerome Ford really? Nick Chubb is here. So if the Browns offense takes that step forward with Watson, Chubb is going to be an absolute monster. And I do think we're going to see him catch some more footballs. I still think he was on pace, or he finished last year. What do you with 30 catches or something like that?
And week 18, like I know it's just one game, but if that's a sign of things to come with potentially Watson, he had 6 targets, 5 grabs, 40 some odd receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. I know again, it's just one game, but I think that this guy is going to be a true bell cow. He's my RB3. I think he's going to lead the NFL in rushing yards. He just came off a season where he had a career high 1,500. He's been around that range before.
I love him.
And I'm with you, man. Just pulling my hair. What is Kareem Hunt doing on the field inside the 5? Like, we just know that's not going to happen with Ford. It's going to be Chubb all day.
Right.
Got the senior manager content of Fantasy Alarm in the house. Loving this conversation here with Jon Impemba, Jim Pemba 777 on the Twitter machine. George, let's bring up the Browns win total here. They're 40-1 to win the Super Bowl, 22-1 to win the conference, plus 425 to win the AFC North. And they have a win total here at 9.5. Let's have some fun here, John. We have rapid fire through this. I mean, things change, of course, from every time there's a surprise team. It doesn't matter. We'll have some fun here. They open up week 1 at home against the Bengals. We give them a win or a loss?
No, I can give them a loss.
All right, we're going to give them a loss. Week 2 in Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers.
They win.
They win. Week 3 at home to take on the Titans with Hopkins on the squad.
Yeah, they win again.
They win again. Week 4 at home against the Ravens.
They lose.
They lose. So we got them 2 wins here the first 4 weeks before they head into their bye week. Week 5 out of the bye at home against the Niners.
They lose.
Week 7 in Indy.
They win.
They win. Week 8 in Seattle. 12th man.
They win.
They win. All right, we got them 4 dubs, 2 in a row. Maybe 3 in a row, I'd say. Week 9 at home against Arizona.
Yeah, it's a win.
All right. Then in Baltimore, week 10.
They lose.
They lose. Week 11 at home to the Steelers.
They win.
Week 12 in Denver.
They lose.
They lose. Yeah, Mile High is a tough place to play.
Mile High's tough. It is.
It is. Week 13 in LA to take on the Rams.
They win.
They win. Jacksonville, week 14 at home.
They win.
Ooh, I like that. Week 15 at home against the Bears.
They win.
They're picking up steam. Week 16 in Houston to take on the Texans.
They win. Yeah.
There's 10. Week 17 against the Jets at home.
I'll say they win, but I think that's going to be interesting to see where the Jets are at that point in the year.
Yeah, right? Both squads. And then week 18 in Cincy, potentially for the division on the line if we got them roughly at 10 or 11 wins.
Yeah, they lose.
They lose.
Yeah.
That's over. That's over the number at 9.5. Do you think that they're a decent little sprinkle to win the division at 425 or maybe the Super Bowl at 40-1? I know it's a loaded AFC and the path is easier in the NFC, but what do you think about that number?
I mean, I don't mind the AFC North one because obviously anything can really happen there, and you're getting a little more than 4-1 on the pay. So I would do the North for sure.